Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're not just going to talk about data analysis in theory. Nope, we're actually going to solve a real-world problem step by step. And by the end of this, you'll be thinking just like a data detective. All right, let's dive in.
You know the feeling. It's that question we've all asked, staring at our phones, stomach absolutely rumbling. It feels so random, so frustrating, and completely out of our control. But what if it isn't random at all? What if there are clues hidden in the data, just waiting to solve this very mystery?
So, let's set the scene. For this explainer, you are the data detective. You've just been hired by a fictional food app called Hungry Now. Customers are complaining, and the company needs you to crack the case of the late deliveries. And your number one weapon in this whole investigation? It's the data. Now, to solve any case, a good detective needs a reliable process, right? A toolkit that makes sure no clue gets missed. Well, in our world, that toolkit is the data analysis lifecycle. It's basically a 5-step framework that lets us turn raw, messy information into a real solution. I mean, think about it. Without a structured process, you're kind of just guessing, hoping you stumble on an answer. This lifecycle gives us a systematic way to go from a vague problem, late food, to a specific, actionable recommendation. It's how we make sure our investigation is solid and our conclusions are legit. And here it is. This is our roadmap for the entire investigation. First, we're going to collect the evidence. Then, we prepare it, explore it for patterns, model our theories to test them out, and finally, report our findings. So let's start following that trail. Okay, we've got our mission, and we've got our toolkit. Now, the real detective work can finally begin. We're about to apply those first few crucial steps of our life cycle to the Hungry Now case file.
So, step 1 is all about collection. You can think of it like a detective arriving at a crime scene. Our job is to cast a really wide net and gather every single piece of information that could possibly be relevant. Because, let's be honest, we can't analyze what we don't have.
For our Hungry Now case, we're pulling in all sorts of evidence. We've got order timestamps, promised versus actual delivery times, restaurant prep times, even the courier's GPS data. And, of course, we can't forget those all-important customer satisfaction ratings. Every single one of these could be the clue that cracks the case. But here's the thing about raw evidence. It's almost always messy. And that brings us to step 2, preparation. Or, as I like to call it, cleaning the crime scene. You just can't get reliable insights from contaminated data, so this step is absolutely critical. And just look at the transformation here. On the one hand, we start with messy data. Orders missing timestamps, duplicate entries, typos in restaurant names, but we end up with a clean, reliable dataset that's ready for analysis. Seriously, skipping this step can send your whole investigation in the wrong direction. Garbage in, garbage out, right? Okay, so our evidence is collected, the scene is clean, our data is all nice and organized. We are now at what I think is the most exciting part of any investigation. We finally get to ask, what is the evidence actually telling us? What are those first clues pointing toward a suspect? This is the turning point. This is where, after all that meticulous gathering and cleaning, the data finally starts to talk. We're moving from preparation into exploration, and the patterns are about to emerge. And the very first major clue is this number, 80%. This is our big breakthrough moment. But 80% of what?
Well, it turns out that a whopping 80% of all late deliveries are happening in just 3 specific neighborhoods. This is a huge lead. It tells us the problem isn't some random thing happening everywhere, it's concentrated. It gives us hotspots to focus our investigation on.
And when we dig a little deeper into those hotspots, we find this. 2 specific restaurants have average prep times way up over 40 minutes, while pretty much everyone else is chilling down around 25. We don't just have a location for our problem anymore. We now have our primary suspects.
All right, so we have our suspects and a pretty strong theory that these 2 restaurants are the main drivers of the delays. Now we move to step 4, modeling. This is where we get rigorous and actually test our hypothesis to confirm if it really holds up under pressure.
And our model confirms it. The data shows delays peak on Friday nights, which makes sense. But more importantly, we can now put a number on it. For every 5 extra minutes of prep time, it adds another 3 to 4 minutes to the total delivery delay. The main culprit is crystal clear. So we've identified the problem, we've confirmed the cause, and we know who's responsible. The final step in our life cycle is reporting. This is where the detective presents their case to the stakeholders, not just with a bunch of data, but with a clear story and a concrete recommendation. And here's the verdict. This is the powerful, data-backed conclusion you present. It's clear, it's concise, and most importantly, it's actionable. You haven't just solved the mystery. You've given them the exact solution they need to fix it. Case closed.
Now look, following these 5 steps is great. It'll get the job done for sure. But to go from being a good data detective to a truly great one, you have to go one level deeper. It's not just about showing what you did, but explaining why you did it.
Just look at the contrast here. A good analyst describes the steps they took. That's the what. But an exceptional analyst justifies their choices. That's the why. They explain why they chose certain data, why a bar chart tells the story better than, say, a box plot, and they think ahead to the potential impact and risks of their solution. That's the difference between just following a recipe and being a true chef.
So we've just walked through an entire investigation together, from start to finish. We took a common frustration, applied a really structured framework to it, and came out the other side with a clear, data-driven solution.
And I want you to remember, the data analysis lifecycle is way more than just a concept to memorize for a test. It's a powerful, practical, and repeatable toolkit that you can use to tackle pretty much any problem where the answers are hidden in the data.
From late food deliveries to inefficient business processes, the world is absolutely full of mysteries just waiting to be solved. You now have the Detective's Toolkit, so the only question left is, what case will you crack first?